A passionate and holistic transformation coach, Rochelle Forrest Hankins has spent a lifetime dedicated to helping others heal their lives. She's a registered nurse, holistic health coach, celebrated author of 3 children's books, and founder of Tummies, Minds, and Spirits, a children's foundation. She's also the founder of the Just Be Kind Club for children. She knows from experience how to go from surviving to thriving. Her latest project is an animated TV show called BugHub. It was birthed out of Rochelle's personal experience of living with abuse. Each of the characters represents a step in the process of helping children to build self-confidence and establish self-worth. Rochelle has traveled internationally spreading the message of BugHub, and guess what? She is here with us today. Welcome to the Sort of Success podcast, Rochelle. I am so delighted to have you.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Yes, well, I've known you for a long time, like almost 10 years now, and your dream has held consistent through that whole time, even though sometimes it seemed like maybe it wasn't going to happen. So tell our audience what your big dream is and what's going on now.
My big dream is that I really want to help everyone, but especially children, to unpack their own superpowers and understand their uniqueness by themselves, and then realizing the greatness that when we come together in synergy. My belief has been for many years is one light to two light to a community light to a world of light. My vision is that we actually have a world that works for all.
Yeah, exactly. And so tell us about what the first step was in achieving this.
The journey was healing myself first.
Okay.
Because when I was really begging God to say, what is it that you want from me? I'm a nurse with a master's degree, and I've been working and serving all these other agendas, but I hadn't ever considered about myself. I really felt like at the time I was just living my life in the leftovers. And so one day when I was just begging for direction, basically within an hour, Shelly in the Circle of Light was born. And so Shelly is a lightning bug that she doesn't know she shines and she doesn't know she flies. And that was really the beginning of the journey. And the books are out there to help not just the children, but the parents and the grandparents that have never ever been raised. We were raised to work. We were raised to get out of, our job and retire. It wasn't exactly like we had this journey, and that we go to school and we do the grind and we can't wait till the weekends. I just feel like that was such not the truth, because every day is so magical and mystical, especially during this time with COVID and all the things that are going on. It gives us a chance to pause. And throughout my life, I had multiple opportunities to pause. And each time it's almost like a new lesson would appear. And I really think the bugs came to me because it's not about color. It's not about gender. It's not about stronger, weakest. It's always about asking for what you need and doing the journey, and always being surprised that you have it within your circle. But you have to know what it is you bring and know it's enough. Because my thing is, I did so many things in my life where it wasn't my gift. And then I found someone like a Pat Altvader that could take my message and expand it. And I think in this lifetime, we are really called to really just figure out what it is that we're created to be, and then created to be together. And so it just kept growing. And every time I had the opportunity and the blessing to share my story or the books, people would get quiet. I think it's because within each of us, we have the knowing. But until someone maybe watches you or sees you, we're not enough. We feel like the light is little. But the truth is, that's a story that we're all telling ourselves. So our job is to help ignite each other. So in a world that can actually work together for the good of all, not some, but all.
Yeah, wow. And so I know when I first met you, you had already written your book, Reignite Your Inner Light, which kind of
Right.
is the beginning point for people. And then
Right.
the children's books evolved when you got the message about the bugs. So tell us about the children's books and how many you have and what kind of the
Mhm.
stories are.
There's multiple stories. There's 3 regular stories. And when we go back to Reignite Your Inner Light, that was like, a book that you can read in about an hour and a half. And it was talking about my journey and really understanding that I was enough.
Mhm.
So much of my life, I kept trying to be something other than me, because I might have been too loud, too bright, too whatever I believe the stories. And then I developed a workbook that was Reignite Your Inner Light, because it's really step therapy. It doesn't happen like, gee,
Yeah.
maybe there's miracles out there, right? But for me,
If
it's
only.
been it's
Yeah.
been 15 years in the process, so I'm
Yeah.
an overnight success for sure. But once I realized that there was such a need, it wasn't just me that felt this way. So each story has a different lesson in what we do. And then some of it is like, you have a grumpy person that doesn't need help, and he's not going to ask. And sometimes Shelly is always just amazed because she's the lightning bug. She's like, why wouldn't people want help? But I think that each of the stories just reflect who we are and who we're becoming. And so then I was challenged, because the people were so excited about the workbook of Reignite Your Inner Light, to say, is there something that we can do for children, that we can start younger? And what I have found is a lot of the grandparents are taking the time with the little ones, because it's really a year process.
Mhm.
And it's not just a moment, but it starts with really unpacking your own gifts and understand where you start. And the very last project of that book is about how do we help our communities?
Yeah.
Because it's not enough that we get me. We have to get we.
Mhm.
And that's really a concept. It's a little shift from me to we.
Yeah.
So there's 5 books of children. And then this last year, I felt like I still have multiple areas that I'm working on, but I felt like it's time to take the children's work up. Because after being stuck in the pandemic and just being a nurse and watching devastation everywhere, and at first we're all heroes and coming together, and next we're all zeros and we have division. And I'm just not a fan. So I just think that each of us need to respect each other and honor each other for whatever it is that your belief is. But then what I need to do is show up in a bright light, because sometimes our own shadows, we don't know our blocks. We don't know that we're hurting ourselves. We get in this trap, and then all of a sudden we're in a rut.
Yeah.
And the thing is we aren't born. We are creative geniuses, and we all have mastery. But how we are created in the universe was to bring it together and create this shifts and this expansion.
Mhm.
And so what I did this year is I had to have a talk with my husband, because he's definitely loves a job, and I work at job, and I'm honored for that because it helps me live my dreams. I'm grateful for my other skill sets, but what I know is I don't want to work this hard the rest of my life. It's just like, I know this is shocking, I'm going to be 60 soon, and I want to enjoy some of the time, not just about the work, because I've been very blessed to love the work.
Mhm.
So I really thought it's time to play a bigger game. And so I made the decision and the commitment to actually take the children's work into a different platform, because I felt like the one by one by one by one, and possibly it's because I'm not the greatest marketer, or, getting all the systems to work together. So I've created a children's show, and it's called BugHub. And it's a place where people come together to learn their superpowers, and that everyone is welcome to the BugHub. And the BugHub is basically going to be a weekly show to start. And it's really helping kids to see themselves in likeness of other bugs.
Mhm.
And even we have this character, and his name's 22. And he acts like a hard shelled person that doesn't let anyone get to him, and he doesn't like anyone. He's going to get all the worms, and just a kind of an evil one. But the truth was, once Shelly and her friend Earl started listening to him, they realized when he was a little person, he was bullied. And so sometimes we don't know each other's stories. People believe whatever they want to believe. Like, I praise God that people think, oh, she's just always happy and she's got a great attitude and she's got energy. But the truth is, in order to be here, you have to go through lots of trials and tribulations. But what I know for sure is we can't become who we're created to be without some resistance. And so I think that it's time that we're rising above. And like, I was reminded, because I wanted to be this eagle, right? And fly above all the time. But the truth is, they come through to feed their young. They come through to get their own food. And when they fly higher is during the storms. Mm-hmm. So I think that was a big aha moment just a few weeks ago for me, because we don't always stay above the storm. Yeah. So then how do we work together and know where to ask for help? And my husband and I just recovered from COVID, and it was quite the journey. And I had a group of friends in California that said, why didn't you tell? Well, I'm kind of I like to get in my cave, and then lick your own wounds kind of thing until you're able to come out of hibernation. Yeah. But the truth is, I think it would be good that you can just share what you're feeling, because it's not always, woo, it's always great, it's always wonderful. Yeah. Some days it's like, doggone. Yeah. And so it's all amazing when I reflect backwards, because when you're in it, you can't see it. Yeah. You can't see it. You can't see the motion. But what I know is people are very, very interested in a time where we work together now. It's a time where we all pitch in. And sometimes there's going to be people that might need our finances. They may need our hands. They may need our heart. We don't know, but we need to listen. And it's really, I have found in many, many years ago, when I very first started my foundation, Tummies, Minds, and Spirits, I had the opportunity to just go through an inner city school. And there was a great big sign hanging that just said, silent and listen have the same letters. And that many years ago, it takes me back to reflect, is sometimes if we don't feel like our lives are in alignment, we might need to stop and listen, and to really listen. And then that's what you figure, all of that inside will have a time to come out. Yeah. But we have to allow, because a lot of times I think we act like we're in this cocoon and we fight and we fight and we fight. But in reality is we're learning to find our wings. We're learning to break free. And I think that that's all of us. And what I'd like to say is, ooh, I have some friends that are multimillionaires. I know a couple billionaires, and guess what? Same walk, different house. Same house. It's like, so it's all has to define what it is that makes you happy, what brings you joy. And are you living your life to the fullest? Because another thing I'm being challenged with right now is there's some things that are comfortable and they're the known. So is it time to break free again in what I know, to grow? Yeah. Yeah. And I'm in the midst of praying.
I agree with you totally that those periods of resistance are the biggest opportunities for growth if people look at it that way. Yeah.
And you have to choose that, it could be a day, a month, a year, a season. Yeah. But what is a new season is coming. And I love that we're coming into fall. Yeah. Because fall teaches us it's okay that sometimes in our height of our beauty and our glory, and when you think about a tree, how glorious they are during the fall, they're teaching us how to let go. Yeah. They're teaching us that if I'm willing to let go, sometimes I am able to grow bigger fruit and bear bigger blessings to more people. So sometimes when we're so selfish or fearful, even, we hold on tight. Yeah. But then it's like we can't breathe as tight, as deep when we're holding on tight. But when I let it go, right now I feel like there's so many people that just need to take a deep breath.
Let it go.
And let it go.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I just want to make
Meaningful.
I want to make a side note that you and your husband both were vaccinated.
Both of us were vaccinated.
Got COVID.
We wear our masks in public. We do a lot of service work.
Mhm.
So, but I could have gotten at the Myers. I don't know. And I'm not blaming, shaming, or justifying. And I'm a nurse and he works in the healthcare. So we were the first to get vaccinated. Uh, and it's scary and people have to make their own choices. But what I would ask for the rest of the world is we know it's done by droplets. So I ask people to wear their masks out of love of others, if it's not for love of yourself.
Yeah. Right.
Because it's no fun. And I have two friends that just got off the vent and they were both vaccinated and they're in rehab now. And I have another friend that was extubated on Saturday. She was off for 6 hours and was put back on that night, and she's younger than me.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
This is, and what she said when she was awake, when they weren't keeping her asleep, she said, please love the people, forgive the people, appreciate each day. Yeah. And it's so interesting in the BugHub journey, which is different than the other journeys is. It's a process. Mm-hmm. And to attract this amazing, beautiful team, that's part of my dream. Yeah. So it's not an end that I sell it or that I get all these sponsors. And yes, that's my intention. But in the moment, I'm so grateful. I have people that trust me as a holistic health coach. So I'm having an opportunity to create more cash flow because of gifts I've had in order to live my dream. And because I'm living my dream, there's 7 people on my team that get to live their dream. Yeah, exactly. Because the illustrator, the animator, he's amazing, but I'm his first project because he worked at JOB for 30 years and sold a company. Mm-hmm. So it's like, don't ever think you're too old. Don't ever think you're too young. You have to just start. Because like when I started, I was just sharing my feelings, and actually was kind of therapeutic for me to write books, to be able to share my story. Mm-hmm. Because it's not a tragic story. It's just my story. Yeah. And you know what? At the end, I do live happily ever after because I lived. Yeah. It's that living that makes the difference. Yeah. And if even last week when I was so sick and I went to the hospital and wanted to get antibodies, and it was an interesting experience. I would ask everyone too to have compassion for each other, because it all hits people differently in different diseases and disease states. And so have compassion, because sometimes people don't have the energy. They need to say no. And give people permission, because sometimes some of us have been recovering codependents and have such a need to please. Yeah. And so no is a very hard word, because no can be a complete sentence, because I always feel like I need to reframe it. Like I need to explain to you. But the truth is, sometimes I need to sit on my couch. Yeah. And some days when I choose to sit on my couch, I get the best brilliant ideas. Yes, exactly. So just because you're sitting on the couch doesn't mean you're not working. You don't know what God has in store for you. And I think that that's part of our call, is to really figure out. And the other thing is, we all need to be asking each other better questions. Because when you ask me a good question, it gives me pause to think. And do we not think enough in this world? We're go, 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 go. Right. Or we pour in our head. And the truth is, sometimes it's trying to figure out. I've been looking at some of my mentors and looking at to say, what did they do differently than me? And what's consistent is a morning routine. It's very consistent.
Just going to ask you what your morning routine is.
Right. And I have to say, I've been doing it for a long time, right? So I'm always up by 4. And I always have 1 cup of coffee with my husband. And then we have a prayer time, and we do prayer lists kind of things. We have written our intentions for what our work is for higher purpose. And then I read. I usually post something on Facebook or LinkedIn, and I've not been good or consistent with any social media. I see the value, because I didn't know how many people pay attention, whether they like or they dislike or they take a word. Hundreds of people will tell me they've seen my videos. Yeah. And I'm always shocked, because they never said they looked at it. They never, or they'll, and I love it too, because it causes them a pause to think, because I'm telling one person's opinion, but I'm not attached. Yeah. What I'm saying is, this works for me. And when it doesn't, I shift. And so that's what in the morning time, but then I'm always in the gym by 6, and I work out for about an hour, at least 4 days a week.
Yeah.
And so that's really consistent. And on the weekend, Paul and I usually walk both days. But our quiet time together is important for our relationship, because that's also a time where we're able to lift up each other and ask for what we need.
Yeah.
And figure out. And sometimes it's having those conversations, honey, I really think I want to do a children's show.
And he's like, what?
And mostly he's learned to say, let me think about that. Because before it'd be like, what? I'm whatever. Like, honey, I would like to go serve in Thailand and go to a children's home there. What? It's like, by yourself? It's like, well, I want to meet people. But it's funny because we have to make sure we include our partners and our people that are in our life, because then we shock them if we're doing, like, you and I could be talking about something all day long and I don't mention it to Paul, and it's always like, you feel like you're starting halfway through the book.
Yeah.
I kind of am, because I've already thought with my buddy Pat.
Yeah.
So it's just those things of what keeps us healthy. And each person has to decide. And as I age, I'll give a couple things. Metabolism drops. It's a huge issue. It's just real. How does sugar make you feel? Pay attention. But to me, one of the things I learned during COVID is I lost my taste.
Yeah.
I didn't lose the smell. But the very first day I was eating peanut butter and banana, I'm thinking, I don't taste anything, because I hadn't thought about anything with me.
Yeah.
So, but what it taught me is textures.
Yeah.
And so every food I can describe a texture now. And so it's kind of cool when you think about it, it just awakened another sense.
Yeah. That's
so how many things in life are we limiting in our life that we're not taking it in? Like when we go on our walk in the woods, what all are you listening to? What are you smelling?
Yeah.
What do you hear in the distance?
Yeah.
But I think our life gets so routine that sometimes you can go to bed and say, gosh, I don't even remember if I went through that stoplight or not.
Yeah.
Not remembering.
Yeah.
So it's just a great opportunity.
Yeah. So what's next for you?
I have a couple opportunities, because I think that once you put yourself out to the universe, other things show up. So it's been a huge awakening again for me. Playing in a bigger, I'm going to say I left the pond and I'm in the lake. I may not be in the ocean yet, but I'm in a bigger body. And what's been awesome, because I declared a bigger playground, people see me differently.
Yeah.
And so I would really encourage that thought, because as long as we stay in our same little cliques and our same little circles, sometimes we do the same little thing.
Yeah.
And plus, people will tell you you're great. We need people that are willing to say, oh, that Zoom was terrible. By next week, you better be figuring out how to make that look better. Because it wasn't a priority for me. But now it's like I'm going to have opportunities to have more this kind of conversation. So you want to make sure that you're showing up your best. And for me, I really know, I was asked last week, would I be willing to work another 10 years? And I'm like, 10 years? Absolutely. And Paul was funny, because we're all, 5.5 years from quote retirement, whatever that means, right? I'm like, I don't see myself quitting. I see myself expanding. And I think that as I expand, it'll give me pause to break. It'll give me, because I've learned that when you use that energy on stage, you definitely need 2 or 3 days to get back in your skin.
Yeah.
And so I do think that I'm going to be teaching in different realms and different genres. I definitely have another book series. So I haven't really ventured into that yet. I have to figure out with my next 30, 40 years that I'm praying to be blessed with is what's the highest and best use of my time. Because it's definitely an awakening now that I'm definitely on the third part of my life.
Yeah.
And I want to be a grandma. I'm going to put that out to the universe. I have a son that is engaged. I have one that's looking at donors. So, and 2 daughters that have significant others that are going to work it out. So that's going to be a huge deal in Grammy's life. I can't wait for that phase. But I also feel a tremendous responsibility to show my grandkids that it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what hell you've been in. It's always how do you play the game?
Exactly.
Always.
Exactly. So you want to do more speaking, right? And what would be the
Yes.
perfect speaking opportunity for you?
Who I'm expert with is caregivers, or not caregivers, but people that take care of other people. So it could be doctors, nurses, teachers, Sunday school teachers, anyone. I want to pour into the people that are pouring into other people. And that is really my gift.
Yeah.
And so, and I love it because to me, I walk the talk because I love being a servant leader. Love it.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of things to be said of how do I keep my vehicle strong and purposeful in order to live my highest?
Yeah.
Because when I start becoming depleted, the greatness does not come through.
Yeah.
The words, the downloads, the things that happen. If I'm not in alignment, it's all about that alignment. And when I'm not nearly as creative. As soon as I get a little rest, a little laughter, my juices like ignite.
Yeah.
Is what I would say.
That is really good.
So those are my people.
Yeah.
I like those people.
Yeah, exactly.
It could be pastors. It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
So anyone that takes care of other people, mothers. It could be, we have so many people that do so many jobs that we may not even recognize them as jobs.
Yeah.
But they too need to be fed. But we have to know what feeds us.
Yes, exactly. Good. Well, one thing that I always ask everybody that's on this podcast with me is, what are 3 traits that you think people need to have in order to soar to success like you're doing? So what are 3 traits?
They have to have faith in themselves. And for me, it maybe not be a higher power, which mine is, but faith in the people they're hanging with. Number 2, I would say discipline, because I'll step it back. You need to have your structure. You have to have some foundation to build from. Sometimes it's going to crack and we may need to rethink what we thought as we grow, but you need a foundation. Once you have the foundation, stay consistent. And so then it's the discipline in the daily touches, even if it's just your thoughts, because we think it's not a big deal. I've been looking at Starwin as the hero of BugHub, superhero, wisdom keeper, but she lives on a star and she comes down and talks to Shelly. So that's part of the BugHub. But I see myself as I'm Shelly in the work in progress, and I'm Starwin in my higher light. Yeah. But those disciplines have been staying. I have been a very disciplined person forever. Since I was 5. I had my first vision board when I was 5. I wanted to be a nurse, wife, and a mom. But I found that when my parents moved. So really get clear. You have to have clarity on what it is, because what I see is people start here, then they go here, and then they go here, and then they go here. And whatever it is because I love like even multi-level marketing, if you're in line with the people, if you can support it. But you don't do it because everyone's doing it. You do it because, Pat, you believe in it and you can get around it. But each of us, like with you have a great way of helping people to find their voice and to have presence. And that's one of your gifts. And then what you do is help people to expand their stages. In fact, even video, I've had the opportunity to do some just clips here and there, and people are like, wow. But that's because you've worked with me for 10 years. And so it's the practice. So it's in that practice that we get mastery. And so all of us need that practice. So 1, my faith, 2, a structure, 3, the discipline to live out that structure. Perfect. So I would say for me, and always, once it cracks, look at the crack to see why and shift. Yeah. It doesn't leave the higher purpose. We just shift. Yeah. And then as we shift, we rebuild that foundation so it's more solid. And most times what I find is it's me that cracks. So I have to figure out, what is it that I'm doing? A couple things. Some people were toxic in my life. They had to go. Now it's when people, especially family, if I'm not feeling joyful, I limit my time. Yeah. So we have to do those things to keep ourselves healthy. Yeah, exactly. Well, how can people find out more about you and the BugHub? Well, a couple places. I would love for you to go to RochelleForrest.com, and you can leave your information there. And we're going to work on, Pat and I are meeting in a couple weeks actually to tighten up to see how we can better communicate the needs of all of you. And then the other one is BugHub.tv. And that will have the first episode on it. It has a little bit about the background, and it's a work in progress. And about another month, that will be complete. But it's going to be a great resource for kids, especially, and adults that really want to understand what we're pouring into your children.
Yeah.
And I really, really, really would appreciate all the prayers and good intentions for a world that works for all, because I'm just one light, but together we're two. And all those that are viewing, take your light, find the next light so that we can have our little ripples, and it will work. We just have to do it together.
Yeah, I love that. Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of luck with all of that. I can't wait to see how that evolves, and really, really, really appreciate that you were with us today. Thank you.
Well, thank you. It was awesome. I appreciate it. Always love you so much.
Yeah. Bye.
God bless all. Bye.
Thanks for listening to the Soar to Success podcast. For more insights into growing your business or improving your quality of life, visit soartosuccessmagazine.com and subscribe to the Soar to Success podcast on iTunes.